are you?
Bond, James Bond.
James Bond has a long history of hit films, but what about the ones they didn't make? For decades, the series has reinvented itself over and over again, but what about the movies we didn't get to see? Join ScreenRant as we look at the Bond film that almost was. James Bond has a 60-plus year history spanning 25 films. In that time, we have had multiple actors playing the super spy, some for multiple films and some for only one or two. One of those actors who did not stick around long was Timothy Dalton. Dalton took over the role from Roger Moore, who played 007 in 7 films over 2 decades. While the Moore years relied on campy fun, zany gadgets, and over-the-top villains, Dalton took a different route. The actor starred in 2 outings as James Bond, The Living Daylights and License to Kill. These movies are notable for being a return to a darker and more gritty Bond. The gadgets were downplayed and the action was elevated. While the first film was a critical and financial success, License to Kill was mostly panned and had a disappointing turnout for the series. Dalton would not stick around, and there would be a near unprecedented 6-year gap between Dalton's final film and Brosnan's first turn as the super spy. GoldenEye was a massive hit and set the franchise on a different course yet again. However, this wasn't always the plan. Originally, Eon Productions intended for Dalton to return in a 3rd outing. Set for a 1991 release, the film would have seen 007 on a mission in North America to find and retrieve a stolen fighter jet. One aspect of this planned story was that Dalton's Bond would be dealing with his advancing age. A James Bond who is older, a little worn out, and not as strong as he used to be is an interesting concept. So interesting that it ended up becoming the central theme of the later Daniel Craig films. Skyfall had the agent returning from a self-imposed retirement with less ability to perform high-flying stunt work, requiring the agent to refocus on less physical ways to do his job. It's interesting that this arc was intended for Dalton almost 10 years earlier. The Bond films are often written by the same creative teams, which means that you eventually see ideas cut from one film ended up being added to another. Still, we never got the 3rd Dalton outing, and he remains one of the Bonds with the least amount of films. Thanks for watching ScreenRant. Stay tuned for more movie news.